Hi, everyone. I just want to say welcome back to another lesson from our Father. I know I missed last week. I had a lot going on, and so I wasn't able to upload anything, but I'm here today. I hope and pray that you guys have had a wonderful week so far, and all is well with you and your family, your friends, and loved ones near and far. But we're going to go ahead and get into today's message. And this one is going to be about relationships and marriage. And we're going to focus on Adam and Eve, right? And this is going to start, I think I'm going to go from Genesis, the second chapter, around the 18th verse. That's what I want to focus on. Um, when God had, created, you know, man, and now he has formed the male out of the dust of the earth and placed him in the garden. He allowed the flowers and trees and everything to uproot and grow. He did the rivers and streams and all of that, and put Adam in the garden. And once he had put him in there, that's when he told him, like, don't, you can eat from all these trees, just don't eat from this one. And Adam was like, I'm paraphrasing. Adam was like, all right, cool. And so at that point in time, God said it's not good for the man to be alone. I will create, or I'll make a helpmeet for him, okay, or a companion for him. After that, God goes and he creates all the animals and everything and brings them to Adam to um what I picked up on was make sure that his product was working properly, okay? That it was doing the very thing that God created it to do, as far as being able to, name these animals whatever I have already named them, because God knew what they were before he even brought them to Adam. But just to make sure that they were in alignment, and at one with one another, he brought them to him. Adam named them. That's what they were. God was like, "All right, good. We connected." Um, but even with that, and with God doing that, Adam was still alone. And one of the things that I saw in verse 20, when it says, but there was still not found a help me for him, to me, when I read that, I sensed loneliness, because in creation at that point in time, God had created a male and female of everything except for man. The female was still hidden within the man, the male aspect of man. And so it was at that point. Now, God had already said that he was going to create, or make the help me for him. But now that Adam sensed the loneliness and the did not having the companionship, that's when God put him into the deep sleep and he made woman. Now, these are some of the things that came to me when it came to, this part of the situation. It was, I wrote down that before God gave Adam a helpmeet or a wife, he gave him power and responsibility, or authority and the ability to manage his creation, right? He cared for the garden, and the animals and everything else, right? So once he showed that he could exercise his authority over God's creation and manage it properly, that's when God said, okay. And then with the loneliness, God, that's when God was like, okay, now I'm going to create woman. And he showed God that he was intellectually capable of being responsible, for his creation, right? And so um looking at those two scriptures, verse 18 and verse 20, when that sense of loneliness came and God was like, okay, now I'm finna create her. He took from Adam the rib, right? And when he took that rib from Adam, he went off and made the woman. Okay. Now, we don't know the exact time frame between him making her or building a woman for him and him bringing her to Adam, because God and Eve probably had their own little conversation. He had probably given her own instructions on what she's supposed to do as a woman as it comes to the relationship with man or with Adam. But we do know that once God made her, he presented her to Adam. Okay. Now, at this point in time, we can see the manifestation of the promise that God made from verse 18 when he says, I'll make a helpmeet for him. And so now it is here manifested. I believe it's what, 21, verse 21, verse 22. And so we have to understand that even though man was created at one time, and then the male and female version was created on the spiritual aspect, now they're both here and connected, and they're the same on the physical aspect of things. So now they're lined up and into mentally and spiritually and physically with God and the creation, or how they were supposed to have been, made and do things here on the earth. Now, when Adam saw Eve, like me, I saw joy, I saw excitement, I saw relief and peace, like finally, like somebody just like me. There's, he say, bone of my bone, flesh of my flesh. She's just like me. Only difference is she has a womb, so I'm gonna call her a woman. Okay. And what I saw was he was able to not only physically recognize her, but he recognized a part of her spiritually, like the spiritual part of her. And something that I thought about was, like, with that rib that was taken from him, like, was it something about that rib on a spiritual level that he also recognized when God presented her, to him and everything? So that's just my thought. I'm a deep thinker. For y'all don't know, I fall under the Piscean zodiac, so that's another story for another day. But anywho, in understanding, all of this and seeing this, it's like when you look at today's time and you look throughout history, it makes you wonder, like, how many men of the male species really understand what God did here. He gave man a responsibility. He created the male first to begin exercising that authority to manage his creation. He didn't want him to be alone. He separated the one into two, male and female, in the spirit and in the physical, so that the companionship, could be there. Gave them instructions on what to do, what not to do. Gave man a little more instructions on what not to eat, as far as the garden and everything. And that also shows that, the two of them coming together, being able to rule together, you couldn't beat that. And in the same way now, when you look at relationships and everything, when a man realizes what he wants in life and out of life, he begins to put things or set things in motion in order for him to have that. And I know that you guys get tired of hearing, don't no woman want no broke man, but you have to understand why. Like, it's in our nature as women to be cared for, and it's in a man's nature to provide. That's just part of the makeup. And you can go back and, you can look at these scriptures. And I always tell you guys to pray about any message that you hear, whether it comes from me or for anyone else. And you may not understand the message today, but if you put it on the shelf or whatever, take what you need today, put the rest on the shelf, it'll come back to you. So, a man is going to work to gain financially. He's going to use that money to provide not only for himself, but for his wife and future children. And he's going to protect that which he has gained. Okay. So every man's level of prosperity is different. Where some may say, I want to be a millionaire, someone could be happy being 100,000aire. You know what I'm saying? Higher or lower. It just depends on the person. Everyone's, idea of being blessed or whatever is different. And your spouse is going to be in tune with you. Okay. And that's one of the problems that we're running into today. People are getting together that aren't equally yoked or whatever. And you find yourself getting caught up in situations or in marriages, and you're just now finding or figuring things out about your spouse, and it's like it was there from the beginning, So going back, into to the message is, but when that man realizes that, what he wants, and he's willing to work for it, he's willing to, save and do whatever he has to do for it, it's like a signal goes off. Okay. Because it's like an awakening that happens. And God puts him in a position to where, even though you're not in a physical sleep anymore, in some ways you still are in a spiritual sleep, because God, while you're out here working, to build and establish or whatever and whatnot, you have to make sure you stay connected to God at all times, because that is how you're going to be able to recognize your wife. And the same thing with a woman. When at some point it's going to come to you, like, you know what, the companionship, the desire for your spouse or whatever. And while God is working on him, or he's doing what he needs to do, as a woman, even if you're out here in the workforce, you're going to, maintain who you are. You go out here, you work, if you're young, you learn as much as you can from your parents or whoever God puts into your life, but stay connected to God so that God can teach both of you how to be a man, how to be a woman, and what it means, how to be a wife, how to be a husband, how to be a husband to the wife that you marry, how to be a wife to the man that you marry. And one of the key things that I tell people is, when you run across the person, you're going to know. Now, whether you act upon it immediately or not, that's a different thing. But there's something about that person that's going to stand out from everyone else that is going to, you're going to know, Holy Spirit, help me with this one. It's just going to be something about that person. And that's why I say, whenever we're out here in this world and we're making all these different connections, just because you meet someone and you're physically attracted to them does not mean you need to be sexually entwined with them, because that's when you begin to create soul ties and you're bringing other parts of other people into your life. And then you're wondering why you're thinking a certain type of way or doing things you normally wouldn't do and everything. That's because you've brought a part of that person in with you, because you have tied yourself to them on a whole nother way. So I know the boys are taught, hey, you need to be running up in everything that you can. And that's not true. That was never God's will, or intention from the jump. Okay. And the same with women. And one thing, I don't think that a lot of men, and I'm not a man basher, so please understand what I'm saying when I say this. A lot of men don't understand, and I'll get into this with the next message. Women follow your lead. I know we grew up in a time and era, I know I did, to where having the classy, sophisticated lady the modest lady that dressed and carried herself in a certain type of way has, gone out the window because they were choosing women of the world over the, God-fearing woman that, was mostly at home and everything because of the type of look or the type of things, the type of look she had or the things that she wore or the ability to have easy access to her and everything. Whereas, a woman that wasn't that way, you had to really work for her, so I grew up in the era of 2 Live Crew, Uncle Luke, Too Short, when in the rap era, but I also grew up, listening to Jodeci and Drew Hill, and I still had the other people, the artists like Anita Baker and the OJs, and I'm probably telling my age, but that's okay because I'm proud to be my age. But anyway, so, and then we grew into an era to where, like, when my kids were coming up, when men weren't interested in wooing women anymore. They just felt like, I'm a man, you a woman, come here, let me do this, and, be on about your business. And women began to fall or try to be these things and that they weren't, because if a woman, men, listen to me, if a woman really genuinely likes you and she feels that deep connection or some type of connection with you, whatever it is that you're presenting yourself to be, she's going to try to be that. And I'm not saying that it's right and or any of that. I'm just telling you that if you out here thugging or whatever, and the female likes you, she's going to develop those traits and characteristics because she wants to show you, I'm with you, I'm down with you, or whatever. If you're a man and you're over here in the church and a woman is attracted to you, then guess what? She's going to condition herself, and have these traits to be that or whatever it is. And the problem again is whatever the man wants, we're going to, in essence, in some type of way, try to become. And that's a big problem because now you have women out here doing a lot of promiscuous things. And I'm not bashing anyone, but I can almost guarantee you that if men would align themselves with God, search their, and get to a place where, like, okay, I'm ready for my wife, let go of certain ways or whatever and whatnot, you will see a change in women. You will see a big change in women. And a lot of things that are going on wouldn't be going on. I've seen it happen. Please trust me. But anyway, a lot of times also women, no, I'm sorry. Let me say this. I teach build a friendship. Because when you build a friendship with someone, if you find someone that you're just drawn to them and you build and develop a friendship, that will more than likely develop into an actual relationship that can lead to marriage. Because when you're friends with someone, you get to know everything that there is to know about that person. The highs, the lows, the struggles, the ins, the outs, everything. And it doesn't matter whether it goes for both the male and the female. And so when you decide to take it to another level, it's easier to make that transition because you know everything that needs to be known. The only thing that needs to be attained is the respect. And I tell my friend this, out east all the time. Because we had a conversation one day, it's like most men want loyalty, women want respect. I know the biggest thing for me in a relationship is respect. Because if I don't have respect for you, it's easy for me to be disloyal, to be disrespectful, or anything else. But if I have respect for you. There are just certain things that I'm not going to say and I'm not going to do. Now, I might have to say things, you know what I'm saying? And like, yo, you know what I'm saying? Like, no, we're not going to do that or that's wrong. But I'm going to say it I'm going to come out of a place of mutual respect and everything. So that's something else men have to, to understand. And women have to understand also that even if you're upset or displeased with something, you can't go around, being disrespectful or whatever. But loyalty can be um broken easier because a lot of times it takes a lot of stuff to cause someone to disrespect you. But some people can become disloyal at the drop of a dime, especially if the money is right. So that's something that you want to take into consideration when you're trying to build a relationship with someone and you're thinking about marriage. Okay. And like I say, once you get to that point, then it's easier to for everything else to fall into place. And I always say, like, there are certain people that if they left my life, whether on good or bad terms, I will be okay. I would be like, okay, God, thank you for allowing them to be in my life for this season, for this purpose, whatever. I'm good. But then there are some, and very few, but I can be like, you know what? No, this person has to stay in my life. Like, and it's not out of desperation, but it's just the bonding of our friendships or whatever is so, keen to where it's like if something, were to happen to them, it would hurt deeply and I wouldn't even try to replace that person. You know what I'm saying? But that is just, and even with a spouse, that's one of the things that you want to take into consideration. And I'm not talking in obsession or stalking someone or whatever, or it being out of lust. I'm talking about a pure, genuine relationship or connection with someone. And a lot of times that can be the person that you're supposed to be with. Now, most people have already met their spouse. I think there was a statistic that shows that most people have met their spouses, I think by the age of 21 or somewhere in the early 20s. And I know through different life events and circumstances, one may or may not be available, to them, whether it's through incarceration or, no longer existing here on this earth. But most people have met their spouses, by their early 20s. And not all cases, but most. Now, the problem with that is we are living in a world of superficial things. Guys aren't looking for women who would be good wives, as far as someone that will be a good homemaker, someone that will be a good mother to their children and things of that nature. They looking for who got the baddest body, you know what I'm saying? So they can go impress their friends and show them off to the world, as a trophy piece. Most women aren't looking for men who could be, good protectors and providers and they can have a peaceful life with or whatever, whatnot. They looking for who got the flashiest cars and the biggest money and biggest drug dealers and all this other kind of stuff. And you find yourself in situations, both male and females, where you've gotten with the wrong person, children are involved, and everything is chaotic or whatever. Now y'all got all this animosity and beef towards one another because things didn't work out. And it's like, but did you, even seek God on this? Because the guy that wanted that, I was dealing with, one of the things that I asked him, when he first mentioned marriage and stuff to me, I was like, okay, well, did you ask God if I was actually your wife? Because it's one thing to meet someone, and I'm not knocking him, I'm not knocking, but it's one thing to want someone because you see the qualities and values and all these things, in them, and that, like, no, I want this person to be my wife or whatever. But you just have to make sure that that's God's will and everything, and make sure that it's not something that you're wanting out of flesh. And I'm not saying that's the reason why, he was saying that. He explained to me and I understood it. But my whole thing overall is, okay, have you even prayed to ask God if I was your wife or if I could be your wife and everything? Um, and then there were other questions that came like, okay, what can I do? What can I bring to your life based on what you're stating that can enhance it? Or what can I do to help your life, make it better? Or what are your expectations? Or what would you require of me as your wife? And goes for wives. And if someone wants to be your wife, you ask them the same thing on the level of, okay, him being your husband, and then you can go from there, because a lot of people are unequally yoked. Some people have gotten married for all the wrong reasons, or tried to get married for the right reasons, and the marriages still fall apart, or they're just not happy in it, and they're staying together, because the kids or the vows or whatever the reason is. And again, this is why it's important to make sure that we're doing what God told us to do, because it can save us a lot of trouble, y'all. A lot of trouble. So going back to just the basics of everything, you want to make sure that you're aligned with God, because you're going to know. And now, if this person is your spouse or not, but it's up to the man to act upon it, and it's up to the woman to accept and everything. Now, if as a man you've met her and you feel it in your soul that you've met her, and you're still out here playing the field, well, there's going to be some consequences to that, because you're leaving her uncovered. If you as a woman are out here, you've met the guy, or you feel in your soul you've met the guy, and you still out here trying to run up behind these other knuckleheads and everything, there are going to be consequences to that. Okay? If what's the point of being out here continuously tying yourself to people that you shouldn't even be involved with, and you've already met the person that you're supposed to be with? Think about that. And think about, who is it that has come into your life that if you could have them as a spouse, or you couldn't live without, um pray like, okay, God, what do I need to do at this point? What can I do to make this happen? Or basically go sit down somewhere. I'm sorry. Both parties need to go sit down somewhere so God can begin to work things out in their life so that they can come together. And one of the things that I do, I don't know if I've said it before, is praying for your spouse in advance, because we don't know what they've gone through. I do that myself, so that when I get married, I can be the wife that my husband needs to be. I pray for, my healing, my deliverance, and all that. I pray for his, so that he can be the husband that I need him to be. And I teach this not only to my children, but, people, when it comes to marriage, because we don't know. Some people have gone through things that literally have traumatized them. And you want to make sure that you not walk on eggshells with them, but that God, you want to pray that God heals them and delivers them from things that will hinder them from coming into your life, and from being the spouse that you need them to be, that God needs them to be, and vice versa, so that you guys can be the person that the family that God created and designed for you to be. Um and just looking at the situation, like, once you do that, if as a man you're working on yourself and you getting your ducks in a row, and the woman, she's working on herself and she's getting herself in position, in preparation to be a wife, when you find each other and you finally come together and you make that decision to where you want to be a couple, you want to get married and everything, well, guess what? Once you do that, that's why God word says the two become one. For this reason shall a man leave his father and mother and cleave to his wife, which means that he's now leaving a family that he was born into to now create a family and a family structure of his own, you know, and they both coming together. They're taking, he's taking things from his life, his strengths and everything, and she's taking hers, and they'll bring them together. And if there are any weaknesses, they balance each other out. Okay. And they come into it with mutual respect and love and companionship and everything. They're helping to build one another up, not tearing each other down. I always say, for those that don't know, hey, I want to, like, when me and my spouse get together, like, okay, let's build this empire together. Like, come on, let's get together. What is it that you want to do in your life? Okay, what can I do? Now I'm thinking, what can I do to help him do that? What do I want to do? He's going to think, okay, baby, what can I do to help you do that? And we come together and we building up. And not only were we building up for ourselves, but now we're setting things in order, and we're teaching our children, and we're setting things up for the next generation. And then, we're also being an example for those who may not have that opportunity. Bam, we coming together, we're setting the example, we're showing other people how to do it, you know. Um which is a beautiful thing, the two becoming one. So you're not just becoming one in flesh, you're not just becoming one in spirit, you're becoming one, in um financial stability and just, overall in life, to where, not only do you have enough financially or whatever it is that God has blessed you with for yourself, for your household, for your family, you have enough to set aside, for a rainy day or whatever, but you also have enough to share with others, and I'm not saying give everything away, because that's a hard lesson that I learned. Um, but you have enough to where you can maintain for yours, but still give some. And that's a blessing, um, excuse me. And what else? And then also, when it comes to, building the family structure and everything, you thinking about, what are you leaving behind for your children, your grandchildren, your great grands, and things of that nature. Because God words say that, we're supposed to lay up the inheritance, not only for our children, but our grandchildren, our great grandchildren, and anyone, the future to come and everything. And then they're supposed to follow in their footsteps and do our footsteps and do the same thing. So that's why the family structure is so dynamic, and we have to stop chasing the world and how the world says to do things. And I really don't think people really grasp and understand, um when God word tells us that we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against powers and principalities, spiritual wickedness, in high places and things of that nature. There is a war and a battle, but you have to choose whose side you're on. When you're looking and living in the way of the world, it's going to cost you. When you choose to submit yourself to God and live the way that He wants you to, is not saying that you're not going to go through things, or bad things aren't going to happen, or unfortunate things aren't going to happen. But if you follow His blueprint and you stay aligned, one thing about it, God protects and cares for His children. Okay. And no matter what comes our way, He delivers us. You know, I said it before, when my daughter was giving some advice to some of the young ladies at church. She was like, one of the scriptures that God put in her spirit was that a righteous man may fall 7 times, but he'll get up. And just think about it, because like for me, I want my husband to have a relationship with God. I want him to have some favor with God. So when things start going left, my husband can cover us. And I want to have a relationship with God so that I can cover my husband. If he's going out here working and doing what he's supposed to do, I need to cover him from all kind of attacks and temptations and stuff, but making sure that I'm doing what I'm supposed to do as well. And he the same. And then we cover our children. We be the example for them. And that's how we keep, the things going, you know. Um when it, and going back to being able to recognize your spouse and all this other kind of stuff, outside of meeting them, if and being disobedient, being rebellious, not doing it because you're caught up in self or whatever and whatnot, you know, you're gonna have to answer for that. So I would, and but I also would say, if you're not ready for that, don't lead that man or that woman on. Do not lead them on, because now, you know, whatever heartache or pain that they endure because, you know, of you guys getting together and you got all these empty promises and stuff, that blood is going to be on your hand, you know. But again, this is why it's important to stay in line or align with God, you know. And we build friendships all the time with different people, you know, or make different connections with people all over the world. You just have to make sure that when it comes to marriage, you are with the right person, that you are not unequally yoked. You know, like the example me and my friend were talking about the other day. Like, one of us may be a hard disciplinarian or may be strict, and the other ones may be a little lenient. You know, one of us may want things done this way and the other one may want it done another way. So it'll be a conflict unless you guys can come to, you know, like a conclusion on, okay, let's compromise on how, you know, things are done or whatever. And I think, you know, one of the reasons why we have so much chaos and so much death is because people are looking at the world for relationship advice instead of looking at God. And again, like I told my son, and this is one thing that I understood, who can better tell you how you are supposed to be or what you're supposed to do than the one that created you? God gives us, you know, role models and people that we can model our lives after. We can take something from everyone, whether the example is set in a good way or a bad way. But ultimately, we need to go to Him so that we can do what He wants us to do, because my assignment may be different from that one. And what may work for them may not work for me, you know, or certain parts of it may work and I can see how I can make myself better. And then if you're doing things to improve yourself and make yourself better, then guess what? It can make the relationship better and everything. Um and so looking at into the relationship aspect of it, and ever you want to make sure that you're doing that. And in the meantime and in between time that you're waiting for your spouse, if you have a desire to get married, you know, I would, one of the things that I told my children is, once you start having, you know, sex. I know they have some restrictions on Facebook, so I'm trying to, you know, keep it clean or whatever. It's hard to stop, but it's not impossible. I tell my children and I tell others that um it's hard being a child of God, especially in today's world, in today's time, because you have a deep desire to live and do right, but you have all this stuff going on around you. But I will always say this: I will, if I have to stand alone, I'll stand in it. You know, if I have to be called bougie or corny or weird and all these other kind of labels, so be it. You know, um, there are a lot of things that I know now that I wish I would have known, you know, in my, you know, teenage years and or my early 20s or whatever. But when God began to speak to me, I took heed to all of those things, and there, and you know, and I'm at peace with my life, you know, as it is now. And granted, there are some things that I'm waiting to manifest, but I know within my soul they are. So I'm okay, you know. So I'm just going to focus on what I need to focus on, do whatever it is that God is telling me to do. And when the time comes, I know everything is going to, you know, to happen. Okay. Um, let's see. Now, I will tell you this: if you're with someone in a relationship and you're still looking for someone, it's either two things. That person, most importantly, that you're with is not the one that you should be with or you're supposed to be with. And or two, you're still just caught up in the lust of your flesh. You still out here trying to impress others, or fulfill some lustful desire or whatever, and you just need to sit down. And that's whether it's a man or a woman. If you with someone and you're not in a place to where you're ready to go ahead and commit to them, you know, and it's beyond, you know, certain reasons or circumstances, it's probably you. especially if they're doing everything that's needed to be done to show you and prove to you that they, like, we can do this, you know. But we'll get into that on another subject on another day. Um and I think one of the last things that I wanted to speak on when it comes to this is whenever, again, with a relationship with God is intact, that person, like, you won't have to do anything to, like, prove anything. Like, that person's actions on its own, their words and actions are going to line up, and you will know. And it'll, because it'll be a part of their everyday lifestyle. It's not something that they'll force. They're not trying to force anything. It's like when they lined up with God, it's like certain things are just automatic, with them. And you won't even have to worry about it, because, like, I know I grew up in an era where if a man wanted a woman, you didn't have to tell him what to do. And now there will be some things where personally you would want him to know, or him to do, or her to know, or her to do when it comes. But just growing up in an era, like, men knew, like, okay, I want to be with her. And me and my daughter, we were discussing this night before last, where back in the day, where a man, he saw a woman, for whatever purpose or reason, and he wanted to marry her, like, he didn't hesitate. He did everything he needed to do as a man, like, doing for her, making sure she had certain things, showing her that he cared for her and all this other kind of stuff. He didn't give room for another man to come in to do nothing, because he had it on lock. And that woman, that being the man that she wanted to be with, and that's something else you got to be careful with. Make sure you're not giving to someone that is just a taker. That's another story. But she respected him, and she was like, "No, I ain't finna let Bob or Bill go nowhere. No, come on." You know what I'm saying? So it's just certain things that happen, and it's not, like I say, it's not always about money. But it's just, with women, we just want to make sure that we're cared for and we're respected. And when we have those two things, most importantly, like, y'all men really don't have nothing to worry about. And as long as y'all not trying to play us stupid. Like I was telling my friend one time, I was like, okay, I don't want my husband to be stuck up under me all the time. Please go hang out with your friends. This will give me time to do probably whatever I need to do, whatever, whatnot. You doing what you're supposed to do. You do not have to worry about me. And even if you're not doing it, I'm not going to degrade myself by going out here doing X, Y, and Z because of what you out there doing, or what you're not doing that you're supposed to be doing. Like, no, I leave you before I cheat on you and live my life single. That's just the mindset that I have. But if you go out there hanging out with your boys or whatever, whatnot, only thing I ask is respect me, in the sense, remember you married. Because whatever you out there doing is going to come back. It's going to show up some kind of way. And so it goes both ways and everything. But it's, like I say, it's just certain things when it comes to relationships, especially when you get to a certain age, you're going to do. And even within marriages, men, God word say you're supposed to love your wives as Christ loved the church, and gave himself for it. His word also tells us that you're supposed to love your wife as yourself. And so when you find men out here mistreating, the woman or the wife or whatever they're with, it's a reflection of something going on within them. And that's why I say the prayers are important. And so, and if you're with your spouse or whatever, I'm not encouraging divorce or whatever, but you pray, because and ask God to give you instructions on what to do. Ask God to heal him, deliver him, all of that stuff, But when a woman, whatever, when a man is relationship with God is intact, He will be able to show you. He won't have to prove it. You will know. It will be a part of his everyday lifestyle. He'll be a loving, faithful husband, provider. He'll be a leader, a friend, a protector, because God will make sure he can do and be all those things and more. And when a woman's relationship with God is secure, not only will she do and be the things, as stated, before, but she will also trust you, and she'll let her guards down for you and follow your lead. Don't nobody want to be following nobody into a ditch or into darkness or whatever. Like, no, you know. And if she questions you about anything, it's not out of distrust or not trusting you or your manhood or whatever. Most of the time it's so that she can gain understanding, so that she can seek ways to better assist and help you. Okay. That when both of y'all relationship with God is in place, it'll be peace and balance, even in the midst of chaos. But when it's out of place, that means there is something lacking, that and you guys need to try to sit down and figure it out through communication, respectfully. Nobody should be calling each other names or degrading each other, whatever, whatnot. Somebody may not have the same education or upbringing, so don't treat them, like they ignorant or stupid or something. No. But you guys continue to live your life as if you were married. Carry and conduct yourself as if you were already married. That way, by the time the person finds you, then guess what? It'll be so much easier. Pray for each other and everything. And one other thing that I wrote down. I think it was when it says that they were as one, which means they were in. Okay, when he says and the two, no, he says they were both naked. I'm sorry, they were both naked and not ashamed. With that one, he showed me that they both were open and vulnerable with each other, which is, and think about being naked. Nothing is hidden. Everything is exposed, and they were able to see each other fully. Everything was laid out on the table, and they were not ashamed, because they both had an understanding. They knew, like, we both got different backgrounds, and this is just something that God gave me, different backgrounds, but I see you and I got you, and we in this together. So I hope this has helped, because again, it has helped me even with my dealings, because I shut it down in a heartbeat. I ain't got time for no foolishness, y'all. No nonsense, and I'm a serious person, but at the same time, when I'm comfortable, like, I let my hair down and everything. I can clown with the best of them, but there's supposed to be love, joy, and laughter in a relationship as well. And if you can't have that with the person that you with, then it's a problem. I'm sorry. But anyway, I hope this has been a blessing to you guys. I'm sorry it took so long. If you guys have any questions, if you have any comments or any topics that you would like to discuss or talk about, put them in the comments and everything. Please don't forget to like, share, subscribe. Hit that notification bell, so that when new videos drop, you guys will be able to get to them. You will know about it and everything. If this doesn't help you, hopefully it'll help someone else. So share it, please. And I just speak blessings upon blessings on top of you guys. I hope and pray that God continues to allow you to grow and prosper, in every aspect and area of your life. So until next time, bye.